Also right now, the U.S. has amassed the largest military buildup in the Middle East in 2 decades. And with that comes a very big question, which is what is President Trump going to do with it? This Thursday, a new round of talks between the U.S. and Iran are planned. President Trump has said that he's mulling potential military action if Iran does not agree to the terms that he's been setting for a new nuclear deal. Let me play what Trump's special envoy to the talks said just yesterday.
I don't want to use the word frustrated. It's almost because he understands he's got plenty of alternatives. But it's curious. He's curious as to why they haven't, I don't want to use the word capitulated, but why they haven't capitulated.
Joining me right now, CNN Global Affairs analyst Brett Mcgurk for more on this. Brett, what do you think of Witkoff's take there? He's surprised that they haven't capitulated yet and where this is headed.
Well, Kate, I've spent a lot of time negotiating with the Iranians, and I think what they tend to do is draw you into a very protracted negotiation on a narrow agenda that they like to set. That's exactly what's happened here. And I think the supreme leader of Iran is actually calculating that for him to give up his nuclear enrichment program, which is really on the table, that would be riskier to the survival of his regime, which is his main focus, than withstanding an American military operation. I think that's the calculus in Tehran right now, which makes it difficult to see the diplomatic off-ramp in terms of what might come of these talks on Thursday. So, there's a book by Barbara Tuchman called Guns of August about World War I and about once the military maneuvers began and there was not a diplomatic off-ramp, the conflict kind of had a sense of inevitability. And obviously the stakes here are not talking this is going to be something on that scale, but the inevitability of a military operation here, still that would be my prediction. I just do not see that diplomatic off-ramp being constructed because of the positions the Iranians are currently taking in these talks.
So that's really interesting because there is a deeply sourced reporting coming out of the New York Times today that the Trump administration in Iran might be looking for that off-ramp. Some of what they reported is behind the scenes a new proposal is being considered by both sides that could create an off-ramp to military conflict, a very limited nuclear enrichment program that Iran could carry out solely for purposes of medical research and treatments. Basically painting it as a face-saving compromise that Washington and Tehran could both claim total victory from. You just think that's not likely to fly?
Well, Kate, I read that very closely, and again, my experience in being involved in these negotiations, and particularly including on the nuclear issue, I think that's a proposal seems to have come from Rafael Grossi, who is the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. He's trying to do what he can in his role to find a creative solution. Given the box that Iran has put these negotiations in, they insist on enriching uranium on their soil. I think the problems with that proposal, as it was reported in the New York Times, and it's a great report, is that enrichment at the Tehran research reactor, that facility, is enrichment up to about 20% grade for the, Iran says they have medical isotope research. That is well above the enrichment, even in the Obama era JCPOA. So it's hard to see that being agreed to. And once you're enriching, it's not hard to actually spin it all the way up to weapons grade uranium once you're up at 20%. So that's the crux of the issue. Again, very complicated. You're talking about nuclear physics, but that would mean an enrichment level above the Obama era deal. And also in that report, Kate, and importantly, Iran is demanding massive sanctions relief, and this is somewhat lost in the picture. And one reason in the Biden administration we actually did not get back into a nuclear deal, a lot of work was done on it, but that Iran was demanding just massive sanctions relief, including lifting sanctions on the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which of course is involved in acts of terrorism, attacks against U.S. forces. And President Biden just said, well, we can't do that. I think it's even harder now because after the protests and the violent crackdown, contemplating such sanctions relief on that scale, I think is difficult to contemplate. And again, this is where the two sides are kind of locked in irreconcilable positions. The U.S. position seems to be, let's do a deal on our terms or close to our terms, and we will withhold a military operation. And Iran seems to be saying, let's do a deal on our terms with massive sanctions relief, which I'm not sure the U.S. is going to offer. Look, I'm hopeful that in Geneva there can be a breakthrough and a deal that satisfies the U.S. and that Iran can live with, and that we can have an off-ramp here. I'm trying to analyze it in my experience, right now, I don't see it.
Yeah, and your experience does speak to a lot of where this could be headed and is an important perspective to have. You have a new analysis out just this morning on CNN.com looking at all of this, how there are these issues that are separate but have now converged, leading to what you're getting at right now. Brett, it's great to see you. Thank you so much. John.